All right, you guys ready to move on to number 2? On number 2, we're going to learn to identify some bias and false reports. So let's go ahead and set up our Excel. I'm going to type in the number 2. Actually, what you can do to avoid having to do all the bold and everything, you can just single click where it has the number 1, Control Charlie, and Control Victor, and now you can just change that to a 2. So we're going to go ahead and look at this link to identify some false reports and see what we're going to do. We're going to look at slides 2, 3, 9, and 10, and then we're going to grab those graphs, recreate them, and then recreate them the correct way. You'll see what I mean as we move along. So click on the website, and here you see we have this PowerPoint presentation, and on slide 2 we see a graph showing the unemployment rate differences between Clinton's years and Bush's years. We're going to take a closer look at all of these. What about Diane, Hilda, and Emily's bowling averages? Wow, Emily is a superior bowler, isn't she? Maybe, maybe not. And then you guys are welcome to explore the rest of these slides. They're fun to look and try to figure out what deceiving thing these different graphs are trying to show us. We're also going to examine slides 9 and 10. On 9, we're going to look at this arena funding where it looks like the city only funded half of the arena and the other half was funded by outside sources. So we'll get a better look at that graph and a better look at these design companies and see if Cartera really is right on target taking up this nice big piece of the pie. So we're going to have fun examining each of these misleading graphs. So I'm going to scroll all the way back to graph number 2, and I am going to start creating the graph. So right here in my Excel, I am going to type in, what do we have here? We're dealing with, it looks like unemployment rate percentages and presidents. So I'm going to write unemployment rate percentages, and then also, now that you guys know how to format your cells, you can do that anytime you like. So I'm going to show you a little something real quick here. When I double click inside the cell, when I'm in type mode, cursor mode, you can see I right click here and I go to format cell, and I do not have all the options that I have normally. So, you know, like the one where I like to align and wrap. So in order to get that, I cannot be in cursor mode. I have to be where it's just a single click and I still have this thick white cross cursor. So now I right click, format, and now I can go to alignment and wrap. And you can use these other features as well. I just have the features I regularly use. I'm actually going to move this over because see how column Charlie is already extra big and it still doesn't fit my word unemployment. So I could actually change the font or I can move that over. So find ways to make your information aesthetically pleasing. Aesthetics means how things look. So I have unemployment rates, and then here I have actually over here, I'm going to have my presidents. All right, and I might just make this cell just a tiny bit bigger too, that column. My presidents, I have Clinton, and I'll just put years because that's what it says there, and then Bush years. I'm actually going to still make this even a little wider just to fit everything, or I could wrap it, either way. For Clinton years, I have 5.2052, and for my Bush years, I have 5.1852. Now, we did say that these were percentages. So I'm just going to remind you guys that if I have, for example, 0.15, that represents 15%. So let's just remember that when I put a percent sign on, I move the decimal 2 places to the right, and when I take a percent sign off, I move it 2 places to the left. And I'm showing you that because I'm about to do something that's going to require you to know that. I'm going to click these 2 cells, and I am going to change, remember I said we were going to use this up here? I'm going to change it to percentage. All right, so you can see it moved my decimal 2 places to the right when it put the percent sign on. So how do I fix that? I'm going to Control Zulu and undo what I've done. And I'm going to record my percents by moving the decimal 2 places to the left. And we can do that by either different ways we can do that. I'll just go ahead and do it here. So we're going to put 0.05. See how I'm just moving the decimal 2 places to the left. This is not the only way that I can do this. Moved it 2 places to the left. Now watch what happens when I record my percent. And I tell it to do percentage again. It gives me my 5%. But I'm looking to show all of these 4 digits to the right of the decimal. So this Excel just rounded it for me. But if I go up here to my decimal values and tell Excel there's 1, 2, 3, 4 decimals. So now all of my decimals are showing and I'm dealing with my percentages. I am going to select, I'm going to select these cells and just, let's see, I just want these. So I selected these top 2 cells. I'm using the control button on my keyboard and selecting the other 2. And I'm going to change this to be green. I don't want to use red or blue. And then I'll make this little piece, I don't know, how about blue? I am going to put a border around all of this. Borders always look extra good on the tables. So when you create a table, use the border. And now I am going to select this data and insert a bar chart. I'm going to use a 3D chart because that's what they used over there. I have unemployment rate percentages. I guess that'll be a fine title. I'm also going to add my axes titles. We're always going to add axes titles. That's part of the grade. It's actually 10 points off if you don't have your axes title on a problem. So make sure you have that. This is going to be my presidents, and this is going to be my unemployment percentages. All right, and hopefully everything's spelled right. If it's not spelled right, I hope you notice because you are observant. All right, fabulous. Now let's look at this graph. Look at the difference between the unemployment rates when Clinton was in office and when Bush was in office. Wow, unbelievable how much difference there is. But watch this, folks. I am going to select this graph, Control Charlie, and I'm going to do it wrong first to show you, Control Victor, and you can see that it put it right inside of itself. I'm going to Control Zulu to undo that, and before I Control Victor, before I paste it, I click off of the graph. Now I can paste, Control Victor. All right, let's see what cool thing is about to happen here. So here's my chart for those presidents and the unemployment rates during their times in office with a scale starting at 5.1750, right? My unemployment percentages starts there. So now I'm going to double click my y-axis. And if this doesn't come up for you guys, then you can right click and format access, or you can come up to the top and find it. If it doesn't happen when you double click it, then Google it. Or just try some different things. And once you double click it, you could come up with all kinds of stuff. We can change the colors. You'll see soft edges, all different things we can do. We want to click on where it actually has this graph right here, Access Options. And then here, I want my minimum value to start at 0. So I'm going to change that to 0 and then hit Enter. And wow, what do you know? It turns out that when the scale is properly notated, that we see there's hardly any difference whatsoever in unemployment rates between the 2 presidential terms. To find out exactly what the difference was, I'm going to use a blank cell in Excel, put an equal sign, and then I'm just simply going to click Clinton's years minus, and then I'm going to click Bush's percentage and hit Enter, and I see that it was actually 0.02% difference. So look at these charts. Wow, huge difference. Let's move on to slide number 3. Let's talk about something a little more lighthearted. Here we have Diana, Hilda, and Emily's bowling averages, and wow, it looks like Emily is a superior bowler. Let's find out if that's true. I'm just going to copy, Control Charlie, and Control Paste this little diagram just to keep me from having to make it again. All right, so once I have this, I am just going to change the things that I need to change. So instead of these things, I'm going to have my bowlers, and then over here, I'm going to have in order to click on the next cell, I have to click completely off of there. So that just happens sometimes. And then here, I'm going to have my scores, bowling scores. And then you can see I'm one short. I need another row here, so I'm just going to select these two cells, come over to the far right of the second cell and see my little cursor. Let me make this bigger for you guys. See how my little cursor turned black to a little black cross? I'm just going to drag it down and it will add that extra cell for me. All right, so now I have my bowlers and my scores. I'm going to just center that because I like it like that. Here I have who's first. Whoops. Diana. And then I just hit enter and it'll take me down to the next one. And I have Hilda and Emily. All right. Now I don't want these to be percentages anymore. I just want these to be regular numbers. So I'm going to take this back and change it to either general or number. Either one will work fine. I'm going to right click and clear contents. A lot of people try to delete stuff out of these cells, and Excel doesn't really acknowledge that the way you think it will. So clearing the contents is the easiest way. Or you can cut. Even cut. See, cut didn't even work there. But if I clear the contents, it will work. And it looks like I've accidentally changed that. All right. So here we have Diana has a score, easy to read, 120. Hilda, you guys can determine. I'm going to say she's at about 113. Well, you guys might think that's 114. It's 112. It's your choice. Emily, to me, looks like she's at about, I don't know, 126 or 127. I'm going to go ahead and give her the 127 just so she can keep some level of superiority, because by the time I'm done with this graph, she is not going to be as superior as she once appeared. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is select my data and insert a bar chart. Again, I'm going to go with the 3D since that's what they used. You guys are going to be responsible to label all of these. I'm going to be checking for all of your labels on your axes. So make sure you label bowlers and scores and label your chart. For the sake of time on this video, I'm going to kind of move along here. So I'm going to make this a little smaller. I am going to, don't cut and paste it until after you name everything. Because remember, when we did this one over here, we cut and paste, we didn't have to rename stuff. So get everything named and then Control Copy, Control C, Control V. And I did that again. Forgot to click outside here. And now I have this one, double click my vertical axes and start my minimum value not at 100, but at 0. And now let's see the true differences between these guys. I was not able to change it to 0 because I didn't have my number locks on, just in case you were wondering why that wasn't working for me. So now let's have a look at the scores. You can see that there really was not that much difference between the scores. All right. Again, I do expect to see nice graphs with labels for those. Now for the next one. We are going to look at slide number 9 and check out this pie chart. So for this pie chart, we're looking at arena funding. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this again. I love making less work for myself. Work smart, not hard. Control Victor. And how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like I'm just going to need one more row here. And let's see, I'll go ahead and change these colors. Make them something different. How about orange on the outside and blue on the inside? How about that? All right, so it looks like I'm looking at some arena funding. So these are going to be the funders or contributors. And then over here, we're going to have the amounts, and these are going to be amounts in US dollars and millions. So US dollars and millions. And my text is already wrapped because when you cut and paste from a previous table, your text is automatically holds whatever property that cell held, so they're wrapped. Isn't that cool? I don't know if that's always true because our names, I guess, were not centered. That's fine. Okay, so now here we have the city, unknown, the malus, and if you didn't realize, I was getting this data off the graph, and then AEG, which is actually cool because my given name on my birth certificate is Amy Elizabeth Gard, so those are my initials. All right, let's see. The city gave $265 million. The unknown amount was $10 million. The Maloofs gave $85 million, and Amy Elizabeth Gard gave a whopping $50 million. Just kidding. All right, so now I'm going to select these cells because I like my graphs to look nice, and I'm going to select this. Don't press this money symbol. It will give you some accounting command that I do not know how to use. You're going to use a little drop down next to it, and if your Excel is too small and you don't see that, then you're going to click on number. This is what your guys' usually looks like because you usually have this smaller. You click on number, and then you can click on the dollar sign here, or you can go to general and go to currency. And from currency, you're going to go to English, US dollars. Okay? So if you can't find stuff, remember to always click around until you find it. All right, so now I have my dollars recorded there, and I am going to create a pie chart. The cool thing, when we create a pie chart, it automatically separates, it totals all of this and gives you the proportion. Let's just insert a pie chart here and have a look. We have our 2D and our 3D. I'm going to go with the 2D since that's what they used. I wish mine would have been in all the same places as theirs, but they're not. All right, so here we want to know how much for each. We can change our label here to be arena funding. You guys are going to change your label. I'm not going to do that. I'm trying not to do too much. It's hard for me because I want to do everything. We're going to add our data labels. And if we look, let's look at our data callouts here. If we look at our data callouts, you can see that the city actually contributed 65% of the funding. 265 is 65% of the total of all these. That's how a pie chart automatically works. So 65% of the funding came from the city, but it looks like the city was trying to make it look like they only gave half. And then the unknown is only about 2% of the funding, where over here it looks like it's about 15% or even more, maybe even 20. So what you're going to do now is grab your snipping tool, and we are just going to put a little picture of this right in here with our graph. Because when you guys talk about it in your report, I want you to have something to refer back to. So make sure you do include this little snipping. We could have had you recreate this graph by using percentages, and the city was 50% and 20%, 25%, and maybe, what, 30, 35%. So we would actually calculate this, but instead we're just going to use a snipping tool. So make sure everything's labeled well here. This should not be called US dollars and millions because now we're looking at contributions by percent. So you might rename this contributions arena funding by percent, something like that. All right, let's move on to the last one for this, at least the last graph. We do have another little piece of this assignment. All right, let me make this smaller so I can see where I am here on this chart. All right, so now we are going to look at this pie chart of these companies who say that they contributed some percentage to the sales of some overall company. So I'm going to, again, select my chart, Control Charlie and Control Victor. I know you guys gotta love this, don't you? So easy when we can cut and paste that way. All right, now I have other things going on here. These are going to be companies. Just say company. And this is going to be percent of sales. All right, and then all of this here is now going to be changed to percentage. So I want to change all of this to percentage, and then I'm going to right click and clear the contents. All right, and then how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 companies, and I only have 4 here, so I actually need 3 more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 3 little rows, use my thin black cursor, and drag it down 3 rows, and it'll just copy those 3 rows down there. And I'm just going to select all of this. Whoops. I'm going to select this and change the color. And I'm going to make this a lovely, how about this lovely blue? Isn't that pretty? And then since these are design companies, we'll make this a little extra designer. How about that? All right. So now I have companies, percentage of sales. Now this company is, a whole bunch of these companies are ACC. You see that? It says ACC dot PAS, and most of them are. So I'm going to select that, grab my little black cursor, and drag it all the way down. And this is just to save me time. Now I don't have to type in ACC dot for every single one. I get to go in and just change. I'm going to press my caps lock key, make this as easy as possible, and just type each of these pieces in here. Always work smart, not hard. And this one did not have ACC, but it still was easier for me to copy it all the way down. And then, of course, the last one is our famous Cartera, the company we are going to examine. All right, so I have my PAS is at 24. All right, so that put 2400% because it's automatically moving the decimal. I'm going to check and see if it does that again, and it didn't. So it's sometimes just a little tricky. I don't want to see these. I don't need to see these extra zeros. So I'm just going to select this whole column, and I'm going to move my decimals over. And I'm actually going to do this one again. Try it again, 24. All right. Excel appears, see now it did 1500, but the next one is going to do 13%. So I'll just go back and fix whatever needs to be fixed at the end. Excel really appears to have its own mind of things. Now watch what happens when I type in my 4.5% for Cartera. Excel is going to round it because remember we took the decimal values away. Erase that. Now at this 4.5%, I need the real 4.5%. So just for that one cell, I'm going to move it to show me one more decimal. So see how Excel will round it if I want it to? And it'll round. What if I put a bunch of 7s there? Excel will round that to whatever decimals I ask it to show. So I can ask it to show me all those decimals. See how it keeps rounding? Pretty cool, huh? All right, so I just wanted 4.5 here. Now I am going to create my graph, insert a pie chart, and there it is. Here I have a lovely pie chart to show my percent of sales. I am going to have my data labels show here. I'm going to add data labels. And of course, you know I'm going to add the callouts. And now you can see my Cartera has its 4.5% here. And it's just says 4% because it's a small space. But here you can see what a small slice of the pie that is. It's only 4% of the pie. But look at their picture. How big of a piece of pie did they make it look like it was? Well, let's find out. I'm going to grab my snipping tool, new, and I'm going to snip a snipping of this little chart, Control Charlie, over to my Excel, Control Victor. It's awful big. All right, I'm going to make this smaller so I can see everything I've got going on here. I'm actually going to move some of my stuff around. Because we are going to do a really cool experiment. We were curious to know, since Cartera only took up 4.5% or 4% of this entire graph, now I want to know how much did they actually take up on their graph that they gave us. So I'm actually going to find out what percentage this circle is of the inside of this graph. I'm going to do that by This is going to be fun. We're going to insert an illustration. Again, if yours is smaller, you might have to look for these commands. And I'm going to put in a shape. I'm going to use the circle. And I'm just going to draw any random size circle. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this circle the exact same size as the big outer circle here. Just drag it around until it's just the same size. All right, now I need a smaller circle. So I'm going to Control Charlie, Control Victor, my smaller circle, or well, this circle. I'm going to take this other one and move that over there. This is my big circle. Now I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to make it the size of this little one. So just get it on there and then move it around until it's right about in the right place. And then we are going to, all kinds of ways you can get here. You can right click and go to fill, or you could go up here to shape fill, or you could go to format shape. Many ways to do all of these things that I do. And I'm going to change my inner circle to be gold so that you see when I put my inner circle over here, it goes behind the big circle. So I'm just going to click on my little circle and bring it to the front. All right. Now I have these two circles and I want to know the size, because what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the area of these circles. And then I'm going to find out what percentage the little circle is of the big circle. So I need some information. I need to know the area, the formula for a circle. Formula for the area of a circle. And then you guys can see that the area of a circle is pi r squared. I'm going to actually use Excel to do this. We can use a calculator online. They have all kinds of cool calculators, but we're going to use our Excel. So now I know that pi r squared will give me the area of this circle. So I want to know, how do I find the area? I need to know the radius. So I know pi is 3.14, although Excel has a key we can use for pi. So what I'm going to do, let's make this all the way big here. I'm going to right click my little circle and go to Format Shape, or Size and Properties, either one. I'm going to click on Format Shape to show you. I have options. I can change the color. I can give it glows and edges and cool stuff. And then on this last piece, I can look at the sizes. So right here I have size. And the size of my circle looks like it's 1.02 by 1. So I'm just going to change it to be a 1. So now I have this little circle has a diameter of 1. That's a diameter of 1. And then my big circle has, let's make this 2.7, the diameter of 2.7. So this should still be, very, very, very close for our calculations. All right, so now let's do some math. In Excel, we just put the equal sign, and my formula was pi r squared. So I'm actually, once I put the equal sign, I could type in a p, and here I see pi. I can estimate 3.14, or I can actually use pi. Just close that out. So if you want to use the pi command, it's going to look just like this. I'm actually going to make mine bigger here. And there you see it gives us a value of pi. All right, pi times, what was it, 2.7? Well, remember that 2.7 is our diameter and we need our radius. So our radius, I'm going to put in parentheses, the radius is half of 2.7. And then we're going to square that. And how we square things in Excel is we use this little caret key. Some of you may remember that from your TI 83s and 84s, your caret key, and we're going to hit squared. All right, so that's pi times the radius squared, because again, I'll just remind you that our diameter for this from one end to the other across the center was 2.7. So I calculated half of that by multiplying it by half. All right, now I'm just going to copy this down, because I'm going to use the same formula here, except for 2.7 is just going to become 1, which really I could have just deleted it all and used a half, because half of 1 is half. But we already have our formula in there, so I'll just change that number. All right, so now I have the area of the big circle and the area of the little circle. To find out what percent the little circle is of the big circle. I could write some nice sentences here and change my words into math and do some algebraic manipulations, but instead, I'll just show you that to find the percentage, we take the smaller circle's area and divide it by the area of the larger circle. And now we find out that it was, here's our value, I'm just going to change that to percentage so you can see it rounded it. Let's just get a decimal. They gave us an area for the Cartera company that was 13.7%, took up 13.7% of the pie when it really should have only taken up 4%. So there you can see 4 different graphs where we were trying to be fooled. Someone was trying to fool us. So you guys are going to insert a text box. So insert a text box, and I guess I should have mentioned this on the last one. If you're using that abbreviated version of Excel, then you will not actually be able to put in a text box this way. You're going to have to do some other types of manipulations. I'm trying to write your report here so that you guys clearly know that you need a report on every single one of these scenarios. The reports are really what you're graded by, and your graphs, everything. You're graded by everything that you do. All right, so your report is going to explain how you were fooled with all these graphs. Why is it important to always look at the axes, at all the axes, and make sure that they start at 0, make sure your percentages are recorded correctly, the right amount of space is taken up by what something represents, and that's not it. You're going to talk about that in your report, and you're also going to talk about one other thing, which you will find by clicking on this link, still in number 2. It's the second link available in number 2, and we're going to read through 3 causes of bad data in survey research. So we're not only looking at the way our axes are labeled and the way our charts are represented, but we also want to look at different sampling biases. How are the questionnaires set up, and how are folks interviewed to get this data? You guys are going to read through this, and you're going to include some stuff about this information in your report. So at least 5 sentences here. You're always welcome to do more than what I ask, but never less. You'll be counted off for less, but you'll never be counted off for more. So if you feel like writing me an entire essay on this, please feel free. All right, guys, that's going to be number 2, and let's move right along to number 3.